going to talk about EC2. That's Elastic Compute Cloud. So ECC, Elastic Compute Cloud. So why we call it Elastic? So if you take in here, I'm just gonna launch an instance. So I'm gonna choose Ubuntu machine. So we're gonna give it a name, and you can choose OS here. So we call it Amazon Machine Image AMI. So these OS images contains everything related to OS things. So if you click on AMI, so we can create customized AMIs as well. We're gonna see those in later lectures. So in here you can choose instance type. So what it means, instance type means it contains how much CPU it contains, how much RAM it contains, so generation, so everything you're gonna see here. So in this case I'm gonna go with T3 micro, and then let's choose. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna create a key pair. So I think I do have this key pair. Let me check in my downloads folder. Yeah, I do have that key pair. And then edit VPC network connections here. It should be in public subnet, and then select a security group. So we don't have any. I'm gonna create allow all, and then SSH, and then I'm gonna allow all traffic. So if you're wondering what are these security groups, we have a video in the same playlist on this one as well. So anywhere, and then I'm just gonna launch an instance. So once you launch this instance, you can connect to it. For instance, I'm gonna open CMD in here, SSH-I. I think that's a North Virginia key, not North California. Default username is Ubuntu at the right and the public IP. So this is how you can connect. So once you connect to the, if it is a Windows machine, you're gonna do RDP. So once you connect, you install some applications in it, and then for instance, let's install Nginx, and then later you find out that because of your application it requires more CPU power, more RAM. Then how you gonna do that? Simply you can come over here, either right click, or you can choose check this box, and you can go to actions, and then instance settings. At the moment you don't see the change instance type, because while running you need to you can't change the instance type. So you need to stop this machine. So once you stop this machine, then later you can right click and you can change instance type, and you can choose a bigger machine, and then you can start. That's why we call it elastic, because that means you can simply change instance type from one grade to another grade. So that's how you can upgrade your machine. And if you come to this instance type, you can see various kind of instance type, because some names, some starts with C, some start with T, and some start with the M. So what are these actually? So if you look in here, if you type AWS instance types, for instance, if I open images, let's grab this image. Let me open a new tab. So you can see here we have general purpose computers, general purpose instance types. So these are start with mostly T, and some with M as well, M6, M5, these. So the T, we use it for mainly for general web servers. For instance, if you have to install Nginx or Apache or HTTP, so we generally use for these kind of applications. So it's a lightweight and balanced. They have some balancing in between them. So you can see here, good for changing workloads. So we mostly use general purpose. So we have computer optimized. So in some applications you need much more CPU. You got some in CPU intense applications. So in that case you can go with the CPU optimized. So if you need more memory, so you can go with memory optimized, and then accelerated computing for our applications that need more graphic power. So you need those. Storage optimized, so STD backend. So based on your requirement, you usually choose. So we have these different kinds of categories in that case. So whenever you see T, for instance, you see T2 micro. If I go back here, you can see T2. If I type T3, so the numbers are this generation. So T2, T3, this means T2 is old generation hardware they're using. T3 means maybe recent generation. You can type T4. So if the number is higher, that means the latest generation hardware they are using. That means, so you can choose different kind of instances. So based on these instance type, how much CPU it has, how much RAM it has. So it has pricing structure based on that as well, based on OS as well. So if I look into T2 medium, for instance, so if you look at T2 medium, you can see for if it is a Windows machine, if it is a Linux machine, it's gonna charge 0.0552. If it is a Windows machine, it's gonna be 0.0732. So we mostly use Linux machines only. 95% of the time we use Linux machines only, because these machines work with lesser hardware, so it doesn't require much more CPU and much more RAMs. But in case of Windows, it requires a lot of processing power as well as RAM. So if I calculate here, if I open some, let's open a calculator. So if it is a Linux machine for T2 medium, it's going to cost us 0.0552. That's 24 hours a day, and then 365 days. So it's going to cost us 484 around. So let's open. So for T2 medium, it's going to cost us 484 USD for 1 year. So for 365 days. So these are basically when you go to this instance and launch instance. These are when you let me refresh it. Okay, it's been stopped now. So let's upgrade this machine to the T3 medium. So you just need to right click on the instance and then go to instance type. You can choose T2 medium. You can see the difference here in cost and codes and RAM, so everything. You can see network performance as well. In this case, T3 is more capable than this T3 medium. So let's upgrade this to T3 medium. At least we can get a better network performance. So actually it's gonna cost the 0.0496. 0.0496. Okay, let's reset this thing, and then that's a 0.0496. Okay, let's do into 24 and then 365. So it's actually 434. That's fine. Let's change this and then start it. So it's gonna be 435, right? So it's gonna be 435 for T3 medium. So it's T3 medium. So how you gonna whenever you launch machines, we usually launch on-demand instances. We call them on-demand instances. Then how you can identify on-demand instances? If you check in details, if you scroll down, you can type life cycle. So if you see life cycle normal, that means it's an on-demand instance. You can type how to identify AWS EC2 instance type. So you can see in the summary, not really in here. So basically, you can identify by looking at here. So if it is life cycle normal, that means on-demand instance. Then how you gonna save cost on this one? In interview, they might ask you that how you gonna cut down the cost on AWS. So you can say that instead of this on-demand instance, what you can do, you have different types of plans here. If you look in reserved instances, that means you need to give a commitment. So if you give commitment that I can run this machine for 365 days, then they're going to give you some 60-70% discount on it, so you're going to get it for cheaper. So we basically go with reserved instances whenever you know that you have predicted workload. So you have a project so that you would be running some kind of instance for 365 days, you are sure about it, then you can make a payment, then you can get much more discount. So let's do some quick maths. I'm gonna go with T3 medium, and here for Linux machine, for tenancy it's a default offering class. You can choose convertible and standard. If you choose standard, that means you're gonna use T3 medium. If you go with a convertible, later you can change instance type as well, so then you're gonna pay the difference once you change this instance. So mostly if we know the predictable workload, so we're gonna go with standard. And then term 1 month to 12 months, so I'm gonna give it 1 month to 12 months. And then payment, if you, let's see this, if you don't put any, if you put any, then check it. If you search it, and these are region specific. If you buy something in this region, so you're gonna get those instances in this region only. So if you look in here 12 months, if you pay upfront 255, so that's gonna be 255 for 1 year. And then if you check in if you pay that if you paid no upfront, if you upfront means if you pay everything at once, you're going to get much more discount. For instance, if you go with a payment type no upfront, let's say, so let's type in here, so in all upfront, so it's going to cost you 255. And then let's see with other prices. This is how we can calculate. If it is search partial payment, then it's gonna be 130 upfront and remaining you're gonna pay in hours. So if I go with no upfront, and then how much we need to pay, 12 effective price rate 0.031 per hour, I think. Yeah, here you can see 0.032. Let's do some quick math on here as well. So let's open calculator. So this is how you're gonna cut down the price. You need to be careful, while doing these calculations, because if you do some mistakes in calculation, you need to pay higher than what you need. So you need to have a clear picture. So basically, reserved instances gives us much more discount. If you compare here, it's around almost it's of 200 215, so it's almost 45% around, I believe. So you need just do some quick math. So that's how you can get a more discount. So you can say in the interview that we can say if you have some predicted workload, so we can go with reserved instances to get much more discount. So you can go with reserved instance. You got dedicated host. So what does it mean actually? This is expensive actually. So if you allocate on that one, so you need to choose family type and end with everything. This is gonna be much expensive. Why? Because if you check it here, dedicated host means they're gonna give you behind the scenes. They're gonna assign you a complete server to you. So whenever you deploy any other machines in your AWS account, you're gonna get what happens in if you go with without dedicated. So imagine this is a physical server at AWS end. So it's a physical server. So whenever you create a machine, EC2 machine, it's gonna come in here. So for instance, your customer A. So you're not only the customer to AWS. There are thousands, lakhs of customers. So if they create their machines, they're gonna get those will be launched in the same physical hardware at their data center. So it must be custom. It might be customers B, there may be C, D. So there may be n number of customers. So those machines will be launched on these physical machines. Of course, they are isolated. But if you want to have all of your machines in, if you just want to have only your machines on this physical hardware, you need to choose go with dedicated hardware, instance type. So it's dedicated. they're going to give you dedicated host, not instance. Dedicated host means the host, this we call it physical server, nothing but it's a host. So that's where you're running your virtual machines. So they're going to give you this whole server. That's why whenever you launch any number of machines, they're going to put this in the same hardware. So because they're giving you the whole hardware, that's why it's bloody expensive. Honestly, I never used it any of my projects, but there is an option I can go with. So that's the one. And then you can see spot instances here. So what are spot instances? So whenever there is a low demand, so they usually have too much space in the hardware, so in the behind the scenes, so they're gonna give you this for more discount. So you're gonna get for spot instances, that's spot with spot instances, you're gonna get up to 90% discount. So that's a you're gonna get it for super cheap. But there is a disadvantage. Once you choose these top instances, if on-demand instances demand increases, they're gonna terminate your machine with 2 minutes notification. So they're gonna terminate your machine with 2 minutes notification. So 2 minutes, that doesn't mean that you're gonna see some flashy things in AWS console. You don't see that. So technically you don't see this notification, but if demand increases, they're going to terminate. Then what's the purpose of these part instances? So you can use them that even if you lose the data, you don't have an issue. In the scenarios, you can use it. So interview, they might ask you, you have a database uh, for the, if you use a spot instance, you're going to get more discount. Are you going to use them? You would say no, because database is a crucial thing. You're going to go with either reserved ones or uh, on-demand one, but don't choose a spot for databases, because they can terminate any time. So you can use these part instances for instance, maybe rendering graphics in maybe some batch jobs. So in that case, you can use spot instances to get more discount. Even you can use spot instances for auto scaling, in auto scaling as well. So I'm going to explain this in later lectures. So you can, these kind of use cases we got. And we have savings plans to get discounts on this one as well. So you can there's a term called 1 year or 3 years term we can go with. So you're going to get some discount on it's similar to a reserved instance, but there will be some a slight difference in I never checked it honestly, this one a lot, but there's an option. So just remember that there is a dedicated host, reserved instances, and spot. So we can go with mainly these types of pricing plans. Or go to launch instances again. So whenever you launch a machine, so you usually get EBS root volume. So what is that EBS actually? So let's what is EBS? So you got a storage, that's elastic block storage. So you usually get as a root volume. So whenever you launch a machine, if you scroll down, you can see configure storage, and then if you click on advanced, you can see it says root volume 8 GB, GP3 300 IOPS. So this is basically block. What is block storage? Basically, they're gonna give you as a whole block. So like a raw disk. So EBS is a raw disk. So this is where you need to first you need to assign it. Some, for instance, you're gonna go with 10 GB, maybe 2 GB, and then you're gonna assign it. Once you create it, you need to format it. So when you get a raw disk, you need to format it, and then you need to create a file system for it. So you need to create a file system. Then you can once you do this, then you can mount it to your EC2 machine, and then you can use it. So there's the EBS, and we got EFS as well. That's the elastic file system. So this one you don't need to format, you straight away create it, and you can mount it to machines, and you can use it. So that's the elastic file system, because it already contains the file system, you don't need to worry about that. And then we got instance store. So instance store. So basically EBS is a permanent storage. So we call it persistent storage or permanent storage. Even if you stop the machine, still you can have the data in it. But instant storage, once you stop the machine, we call it ephemeral storage. So it's ephemeral storage. So if you stop the instance or terminate the instance, you're gonna lose the data. So, but if you reboot it, you're gonna still have the data. So what's the purpose of this instance store, and what we how you gonna use EBS? So if I can a diagram, that's going to give you a better idea. So as I said, this is a physical machine. So it's a physical server, I could say. So once you launch an instance, for instance, you create an EC2 machine over here on this physical hardware, and then you have this EBS block storage in here. It's a basically network storage, I could say. It's a network storage. So for this one, if you chose 8 GB volume as a root volume, so in our case we have this 8 GB root volume, then you will be getting these 8 GB from this EBS storage. So basically there are blocks. So let's say you created 8 GB in here, so that will be attached to your machine. So you're gonna get that 8 GB from here. So let's create 2 GB more volume here. So if you create 2 GB in here, once you create it, you can simply attach it to your machine. So let's see this. So we already do have a machine over here. So if I go to instances, let's grab this public IP, and then so once you stop the machine and if you start it again, you're gonna get a new IP. Earlier it was, oh, I just exited. Earlier it was a different public IP. I'm talking about public IP. Private IP is not gonna change. So press yes. Run the command sudo su, just be a sudo user. Just gonna increase the font size. So if you run the command blkid, so that's a block dividers. So if you run the command lsblk, you're gonna see a list of block dividers. In our case, you got 8 GB this volume, and then I'm going to go to volumes and then create a volume. So I'm gonna talk about the GPI, GP3, GP2, IO1, and uh, let's explain this one first. Then I'll go jump into those topics. So I'm gonna go to GP3. IOPS is fine, and then what you need to do. These EBS is a it's a availability zone specific. If you have machine in 1A, if you deploy this another storage in 1B, it's you're not gonna use it. Let me show you that. So in my case, if I go to instances, so remember that EBS is a zone specific. So I have West 1A, it's in 1A availability zone. If I create 2 GB in 1A, so if it's in 1A now, so if I create this in 1B, then let's see how it behaves. Maybe in 1C, I think it doesn't have 1B, it seems. That's fine. Just create the volume. If you refresh it, you can see the 2 GB volume here. But if you try to attach this to your EC2 machine, click on attach volume. Now you don't see that instance because you have that one machine in 1A, but you created this 2 GB volume in 1C. So that's why you can't attach it. So remember that EBS volumes are availability zone specific. So let's delete this volume. Just type delete. Now create a volume, 2 GB. So it's in 1A. That looks fine. Refresh it. Now you can see or if you click on attachment, now you can see that instance. So let's attach it. So you need to choose, I'm gonna choose STE. So that's been attached now. If you run the lsblk command again, so now you can see a new disk with 2 GB. Earlier you don't see. So you can see disk here, but if you look in this one, you can see disk here, you can see these partitions. So these are partitions. So how you gonna get this? This is a raw disk. Now you need to format it. You can run the command cfdisk. These are Linux commands, nothing to do with AWS. And then we usually have devices in dev, and then give it this device name. Choose GPT and new. I'm gonna go with the old 2 GB. That's fine. And then I'm gonna choose write, and then type yes. Now you're done. You got the disk. You can quit it. If you rerun the command lsblk, now you can see a disk as well as partition. Now you got this partition, you need to make a file system for it. How you gonna do? Run the command mkfs.ext4, that's a file system for ext4, and then choose dev, and then this partition, paste it. Then you need to give it one over here, I think. Yeah, now it says, yeah, it's been created now. It says something. Let's use the whole name p1. Yeah, now you got that. So that's all. You need to run this command mkfs ex.ext4 and slash dev and the partition name. So now you got this. Let's rerun this again, ls blk. Now you got this. Then how you gonna mount it? Let's create a directory. I'm gonna say data here. It's in here. How you gonna mount it? You can run the command mount, and then data. Actually you can choose dev and the partition name nvme. So let's grab this one, and then directory name, in our case data. So if you run it now, if you go to that directory, so you can see this one. Even you can run the command df-h. So here you can see the mounting. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some data in it. So let's say hello.txt, hello EBS. I'm going to say Control C. That looks fine now. You can see that file cat hello.txt. So that looks now. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to reboot this machine, see what happens. So let's come over here and reboot this machine. So this one is going to take a while. So whether it is been rebooted or not, how you going to check it? You can simply try to connect it. Otherwise you can right click, you can click on monitor, and then click on get instant screenshot. So now you can see it's rebooting. You can see that the text in here. If you refresh it, once you see that login, that means the instance is ready to connect. Now you can see it's login. Now if you try to connect to it, just use up arrow. Now we are in. Just gonna do sudo su. So now if you run the command lsblk, you can see the partition and everything attached. If you run the command df-h, now you don't see that mounting, that's been gone. If you go to this data folder, for instance, let me do ls-l in the data directory, you don't see any files. That means I will lose this file? No, those files are still exist, but your mounting has been removed, because if you just mount it and if you reboot the machine, you're going to lose that mounting. For that one, what you need to do, you need to edit this /etc fstab file. So this is where you need to make some modification, then only that mounting is going to be persistent. So just careful while editing this file. This is a crucial file because it contains all the booting order of the disks. So if you mess up with that, your machine is your machine won't be booted. So remember that. So I'm going to run the command blkid instead of the name. So what I can do, that's nv, yeah, this is the one partition we did. So I'm just gonna grab this UID. So open that etc Fstab again. Now press O and just put that, and then you need to give the location of that directory. So that's in /home /ubuntu, and the directory name is data where I want to mount it, and then give it a file extension ext4. You can give them everything as default. I'm just gonna go with the defaults and then save it. So once you save it, if you do this now, again you're not gonna see that mounting. You just need to run the command mount -a. Okay, it's been modified, so we need to reload this one. Just now rerun that command mount -a. Now if you run the command df-h, now you can see it. If you go to this data director again, still you can see that file and content. So let's try to reboot it again. Let's see, because for now we edited this fstab file, so it needs to be persistent. So let's see. So we just rebooted it. It's gonna reboot it in a while, and then once you connect it, you're gonna see the content. So that's how we can do. Even if you want to extend the size, imagine you put a lot of data in this 2 GB file, and then sorry, 2 GB volume. Then if you have to extend this volume, how you going to do that? So let's do that as well. So let's come back and rerun the command to sudo su. If you run the command df-h, you can see the mounting exists. Even you can check that data in the file. So you can see that file, you can see the content in it as well if you cat it. So cat data here.txt. So that's persistent. Then how you going to increase the size? Simply you can come back here and then right click, modify volume, and then just, if I need 4 GB, just gonna do 4 GB, and done. Now if you come back here, df-h, that's fine. If you run the command lsblk, now you can see 4 GB, but the disk size is 4 GB, but you got only 2 GB partition, and then it's been mounted to this. How you gonna increase this one? What you can do actually, you can run the command grow part, and then /dev, and then give this partition ID. My bad, I put something in here. I think you gotta give a space in here. No, actually you just need to remove this one, not that. Maybe, yeah, that's how you can do. What you need to do, if it is NVMe, you need to run the command grow path /dev and NVMe n, and then just remove this p and space 1. So if you run the command lsblk again, now you can see the partition is 4 GB as well, disk as well, but still you would have only 2 GB because you need to increase that file system as well. For that one, you can do resize to fs, that's a command, and then /dev, and then the partition NVMe, just paste it. Oh, again. So now you can see it's been redirected, resized to uh, it says online resizing required, old disk blocks, new disk blocks. So the file system on is now 4K blocks long. So it's been upgraded now to 4 GB. So that's how we can do actually. And then when it comes to this volumes part, so we have, as I said, instant store as well. So what is instant store? That's a formal store, as I said. That means I need to create another machine. For that, I'm going to show that as well. So let's discuss this. If you go to volumes again, I'm just gonna get rid of this 4 GB. Just gonna delete it. First you need to detach it. Once you refresh it, if it is, you can see that available, it says optimizing. So you can see for some what are the volumes you already using it, you can see in use. So that's fine. I'm just gonna try to delete it again. Delete. So this is how you can create and you can delete quickly. So you can click on create volumes. Once you create it, you can see different kinds of volumes here. So if you go with GP2 for instance, you can say if I you can say minimum 1 GB and maximum this much, and then you can see IOPS. It says baseline of 3 IOPS per GB. That means if I go with 2 GB, you're gonna get 3 into 2. That's gonna be 6 IOPS. I'm sorry. It says with a minimum of 100 IOPS, boostable to 3000 IOPS. Maximum you can get 3000 IOPS. So if you go with 2 GB, maybe if I go with 100 GB, I'm gonna get 300 because 100 into 3 apps per GB, so that's gonna be 300 GB. So basically, what are these IAPS? So if you compare that, if someone asks you how much capacity your bike has, you're gonna say 350 cc, maybe 120 cc. So you're gonna say these cc defines a capacity. So in this disk, IAPS means input output per second. So that's how the speed of writing to disk and speed of reading from that disk, it defines with IAPS. So more IAPS means you're going to get more performance. So in here you're going to get if you go with GP2 for the 3 GB for 3 IAPS for 1 GB and minimum 100 IAPS. So that means if you go with 200 GB, you're going to get 600 IAPS because 200 GB into 3. So you can't choose IAPS here because you're gonna get as per this requirement. So if you imagine you have a database, you just need 40 GB storage and you need more IAPS. How you gonna get? So if you use GP2, you won't get it. So for that one, you're gonna go with IO1. So this is expensive as well at the same time. So you can choose IAPS, how many IAPS you want. So in interview, they might ask you that if you need to have optimal performance with your disk, how you gonna choose disk for your database. You're gonna say you can say I can go with IAPS 1 or 2 depending on our need. So this and that one is a bit expensive. If I need more IAPS, so I'm gonna go with IO2 with less disk space as well. You're gonna get more IAPS. So that's how we can say. So for even 10 GB as well, you can get up to 10,000 IAPS for up to and 1,000 IAPS per GB. It says so you can get a maximum of 10,000 IAPS. It says maximum. So for IO1, IO2, and then you got GP3 as well. This stays in between because IO1, IO2 are expensive, and they customer wanted to have a affordable IAPS one. So that's why they gave us GP3. So if you click on GP3, you can choose a DB and you can choose IAPS as well. This one you can go till 80,000 IAPS. So based on these throughput, that means what is throughput means? It basically defines the performance that the volume can support. So that those are IAPS basically. So those are volumes there, and you got other ones as well. STD, this is a very it's going to be much slower because it contains movable parts. So magnetics are these are outdated ones. Soon they're going to remove these three, I believe. But if you want to have a cheaper, very cheaper one, you're going to go with this one. But you can expect a low performance with these disks. So that's all about these volumes, EBS volumes. So let's come back to this instance store. So instance store is a bit, it usually works faster because imagine, because these instance store usually attached to your physical server itself. That's why you can access this storage quickly. So, but this instance store comes with only some specific instance types only. So this can be, I'm gonna simply say instance store is. So instance store, this one is ephemeral in nature. If you reboot the machine, still you have, but if you stop the machine, you're gonna lose it. The reason for that, imagine you stopped this EC2 machine, and then if you stop it, and later after 1 hour or 2 hour, maybe 5 minutes, you again started it. There is no guarantee that this machine is going, this EC2 machine will be launched on the same physical server. That's why. But you created instance store, you chose instance store in here, you have that storage attached to this physical machine. If you relaunch the machine, if it goes to another physical machine, then you won't have access to this storage. That's why it is ephemeral in nature. Then we basically use this for a swap storage. So swap is nothing but you are running out of RAM maybe, and then you have some idle applications. So that idle applications will be moved to this swap storage. So that's how it frees your RAM. So that is a swap we call it. So for those swap applications you can use, maybe you can you have some batch applications, maybe you have graphic rendering applications, you can use them because you're not going to worry about the storage. But not every instance gets that storage. So for that one, what you can do, if you click on launch instances, I'm going to show you this one as well as an example. And then before that's why I'm gonna go with, for instance, maybe I'm gonna say instance store. So click on AMI, choose your AMI, and then scroll down. Here if you can see instance types, you can click on compare. So if you scroll down, you can see storage type. So not every instance had that. So these storage type mean that's instance storage. I'm sorry, it's you can see storage here. So when you see storage, that means it's instance storage, and the storage type, whether it's hard disk or SSD, you're gonna show. SSD is faster than hard disk. And then if I go with a C3 large, I can get two virtual CPUs, and then you can choose this much memory I'm gonna get as well as this storage. So let's do a task on this one now. So what I'm gonna do actually, simply what I can do, I can go to my instance type. So I'm sorry, I forgot that C3 large. I think it's C3. Let's, yeah, it's a C3 large. You're gonna get 32 GB. You can't increase the storage. So whatever they gave you the unit, you just gonna use that one only. So if I go to instances, I'm just gonna stop this machine and then right click and change the machine type. Refresh it again. Let me refresh here again. So it's been stopped now. You can right click, go to instance settings, and then instance type. I'm gonna go with C3 large. So you can see storage, and then change instance type. Right click and start it. But remember this, if you are going to choose this kind of machine C3 computer optimized, you can go with it. Then you can get this 32 GB. But don't choose this instance type just because you are getting 32 GB. So that's not it works. So basically we choose instance type we need. If you get that 32 GB, 64 GB, or whatever the storage you get, you're gonna get with instance store, then you can use it. But don't buy just for the sake of instance store, okay? And then you got this machine now. Just grab this public IP, connect it to it again. Just use up arrow and paste this IP. Seems it's still booting. Let's press Control C. Let's rerun this command again. Maybe if what I can do, I can right click, go to monitor and instant screenshot. It's still booting it. Let's wait for a while. This is how you can troubleshoot while working. If you face, even you can check here as well. You can see instant status checks as well. If you refresh it, let me refresh this page. I'm sorry about this. This one is going to be a bit, a longer lesson, a longer video, but you're going to get much more information from this video. It states still in instance status checks are initializing. Sometimes still you can run it. Now you got this. Now we are in sudo su. So now if I run the command lsblk again, it's lsblk. So now you can see that 32 GB in here, xvdb, but it comes as a two parts. Is this the one? 32 GB? Yeah, this is the one actually. So if you rerun again lsblk, you can see these disks here. Again, you need to format them. I thought it comes as a 32 GB, but we can see there's a 15.8 and 15.8. It has a two-part disk actually. So if I want to use this one, what I can do, you just need to run the command cf disk and then /dev. I'm just gonna go with one device to show that. So and then xvdb. It says device already contains a ext2 signature. It will be removed by OK. So if you run the rerun command lsblk, I don't see any partition here. I don't know some reason. Okay, let's rerun that again. That's fine. I'm just gonna. I'm okay with that overriding. I don't see any 32 GB. So lsblk. Sorry, that's a cf disk xvdb. Press any key to continue. That's fine. And then new. That's fine. Just write it. Click on yes. Now quit it. If you rerun the command lsblk again, you can see partition. Now let's run the command mkfs.ext4 /dev /xvdb1. So you got the file system. It's been creating. So basically, if you compare with the EBS, this one is it's faster than EBS because it's attached to straight to our machine. So that's why it's faster than EBS. So if you rerun the command again, it says writing super blocks and file system accounting information. But remember that this EC2 instance store is volatile in nature. I mean ephemeral. So once you stop the machine, you're going to lose it. So we got that. Now we got that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create mkdir. I'm going to say store, for instance. So let's mount this. The command mount and then /dev xvdb1 and then the directory name. So if we'll go over there, so you can see it, I'm just gonna create a file. Just gonna say store.txt hello store. So you got that file now. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna reboot the machine. So let's wait for a file. Once you reboot it, as I said, if you reboot the machine in instance store, you still have the data. Okay, for instance store, I can say data stays with reboot. But if you stop it, if you stop and start the machine, we'll lose the data. Remember, if you reboot it, you're gonna have the data, but if you stop and if you start it, restart it, and then you're gonna lose the data. Let's see that in action. So if you try to reconnect it to machine now, so you gotta wait. I think it's still booting it. You can check monitor instance screenshot. Okay, let's try to connect again. It seems this machine is slower, C3 is slower than T3 medium, or that's fine, you gotta wait. So meanwhile, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a Windows machine to show you how to create a machine and how to attach a volume and then how to format it as well, because I've already shown you with the Linux. So I'm going to say Windows, then open Windows AMI you can choose, and here let's go with T3 large, because Windows needs much more CPU and RAM. So T3 large is fine, and the key pair and VPC I'm gonna go with public subnet, and then here HDP, that looks fine, and then launch. It automatically choose 30 GB because Windows require more storage. So let's try to connect to our machine again. Okay, it says connection refused. That's fine. Just wait for a while. See, if you reboot the machine, you're gonna get the same IP as well. The IP won't change. If you stop it and then start it, then that IP is going to change. So status checks are passed. Still it says connection refused. That's a weird reason actually. What happened if I go back? Let's check that state again with actions, monitor, screenshot. Yeah, it's still booting it seems. So we got a okay. So how can you press continue over there, because you can't go over there? So it seems some terminal issue. That's fine. I'll try to reboot it again. Come back to instances. Let me give it a shot one more time. Yeah, still says connection refused. This is how it happens. With some instance types. I'm just gonna click on reboot. I just wanted to show that instance store, you still have the data with the reboot, but if you stop it and start it again, you won't see that. I just want to show that. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Let's go to this Windows machine now. Click on connect, RDP client, and then get password and load your private key. So now you got this password. I'm just gonna grab this public DNS, or you can use public IP as well. Just type RDP, paste that. Default username is administrator, and let's get this password. Administrator and the password. Click on yes. So this is the machine you got now. What you can do, if you want to, let's refresh this. It's still setting things up. So meanwhile, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna, okay, actually we got this. Let's open File Explorer. So if you go to this PC, you can see only one disk. So what you can do, you can go to disk management, just type disk, you can see create and format hard disk partitions. Click on that. At the moment you can see only one disk. So what we are going to do now, go to AWS and the EBS volumes. I'm going to create a 10 GB volume. So but we need to make sure that in which AZ we have that machine. Hopefully that's invest A. So refresh it. We have given 10 GB. Right click and then attach volume. That's Windows. Attach. We need to choose disk XVDB. So now if you go back here, now you can see disk 1 here with 10 GB. How you gonna initiate this? You just right click and initialize disk. Click on OK. Now you're gonna see 9.98 GB. Now right click it, new volume, next, and then next, next, next. Now you can see the new volume here. This is how you can do. Even if you want, you can extend this volume by creating by increasing the volume size at AWS, and then you can increase here as well. So let's go back to our Linux machine. We have that in here. So let's see, hopefully we got the same IP 122. Hopefully this time works. Let's see. Yeah, it's working now. Some weird reason we are not able to connect. So if I do that lsblk again, now you can see the disk and partition, but of course we didn't edit that etc Fstab. So if you simply, what you can do, you can remount it. You can run the command mount /dev xv db1 and the directory name you want to mount. Now if you go to store, now you can see that file. So instance or with the reboot you're gonna have it, but if you stop it, let's see, I'm just gonna stop this machine. So instance store is ephemeral. That means if you stop the machine, you're gonna lose the data. So with the reboot, we had the data, but if let's see, we just stop now. Let's see how it behaves. So still stopping it. Let me give it a refresh. Okay, still stopping it. Meanwhile, what I can do, if I want to increase this volume from 10 GB to 15, let's see what we need to do. Let's minimize this. Let's go to volumes and then click on this one. Just modify the volume. Just gonna say, with the EBS you can increase the volume but you can't decrease. So if I do go with 9, it says the size volume can be only increased and not decreased. So let's go with 15, modify it. So I just modified it. If I go back to this EC2, if it is stopped, I'll start that again. I refresh it. Okay, it's been stopped now. I'm just gonna start it. So it's gonna start soon. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go to this Windows machine. If I open disk management, so now you can see 14.98, you can see 5 GB unallocated. What you can do, click on this one. If you want to increase this partition, you can click on this. If you want to increase C, you can click on that as well. So I'm just gonna go with new volume D. I can say extend volume, next, next, and then finish it. Now if you refresh it, so now it's 15 GB. So that's how you can do with Windows. So I'm just gonna close this connection, and if I refresh it, I'm gonna terminate this machine. Now let's go back to our Ubuntu machine. So if you stop it and start it again, you're gonna get a new IP as I said. So earlier it was 122 ending with. So let's remove this IP and just put new IP. I'm gonna try it again. Now after a while I can see this. Yes, it took about 5 minutes. So let's rerun sudo su. If you run the command lsblk again, now you don't see the partition because it proves that it's been deployed on a different machine. So and it proves that this instance store is ephemeral in nature. So if you stop the machine and start it again, you won't see the data. So that's why you can use it for temporary storage purpose only. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and this is a long video, I know, and sorry for that, but this is how it works. Thanks again.